Hi everyone. Today I make a lecture is based on Joshua chapter 3 and 4. I give the name for today's lecture is Crossing the Jordan. Introduction, I would like to go for introduction. It is Israel about Israel. They going to enter the promised land. Then after another one's transition from Moses to Joshua. Um, it is uh, the moment when the Israelite, led by Joshua, miraculously across the Jordan River to enter the promised land for the first time. This even represent the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham and the transition of leadership from Moses to Joshua. It highlights God's faithfulness and affirm Joshua's role as his appointed leader. Okay, and then keep him moving ahead in faith. There is just now I mentioned already some introduction. The event started Joshua chapter 3. Israelite, all the Israelite, they are at the edge of the promised land. Near the river bank of the Jordan, outside the other side of the Jordan. And then second one is the transition from Moses to Joshua. The background, I would like to say a bit about the background. Israel prepared to enter the promised land after years, many years, 40 years at least, in the wilderness. And then Joshua leads the people following Moses' leadership. That key event is their preparation at Shittim for the crossing the Jordan. We can see the instruction how Joshua instructed at Shittim to Israelite, especially their arrangement, their setting, according God's asking to do, how to prepare themselves. And then another one is the significance of the ark and the commanded distance. The Israelite camped at Shittim for several days. They mentioned after 3 days, and Joshua instruct the people to prepare as they will cross the Jordan in 3 days. Joshua given instruct about following the Ark of the Covenant, which symbolizes God's presence. The miracle at the Jordan, the priest act of faith. The Ark leads the way, carried by Levitical priests guiding. The people are commanded to keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits, almost 1 kilometer from the ark, emphasizing reverence and the uniqueness of this journey, as they have not passed this way before. And then another one, God's exhortation of Joshua. God tells Joshua that he will begin to exhort him in the eyes of Israel, just as he did with Moses by performing a miracle of the Red Sea crossing. Uh, yeah. This miracle will confirm Joshua leadership and God's ongoing presence with Israel. That is I already mentioned about this just now. Okay, let's move on to the what we can see the miracle about the miracle. And then the miracle at the Jordan, God's promise to Joshua, the priest of acts of faith. Just now I mentioned already, the stopping of the Jordan's water rivers. Priests carrying the ark step into the river at flood state. The waters stopped flowing and piled up in a heap. The people crossed on the ground. And another one, the ark remains in the riverbed about all have crosses. So let's see in deeply. As soon as the priest feet touch the water, the Jordan's flow is miraculously stopped, and the water piled up in a heap for upstream. The entire nation crossed over on dry ground, a clear sign of divine intervention. And then another things, memorial stone and their purpose. Faith, we can see that this here, we can see here, faith and obedience, stepping into the water before seeing the miracle. Yeah, something we can see, then we can do. We cannot see us to do. Oh, I do not dare to do. I scare. Maybe something bad things happen on me. But in this chapter, very important, faith and obedience. So the people step into the water before seeing the miracle. After that only, they can see the miracle. And then God present. That means the ark leads the way, symbolizing God's guidance. And then another things, I want to talk about faith and obedience. Deeper. Crossing the Jordan requires courage and active faith. If we are not in faith in God, we cannot do anything. The priests were commanded to step into the river. Why? It was still at flood, state rushing, dangerous, and seemingly impossible to cross. They had to act in obedience before seeing any sign of a miracle. It was only after their feet touches the water that God caused the river to stop flowing, allowing the people to cross on dry ground. This act highlights the importance of trusting God's word, even when circumstances appear overwhelming or hopeless. Their faith was not passive. It was demonstrated through decisive action in response to God's promise. This moment described in Joshua 3 is a powerful lesson in faith. The Jordan River was at flood state during the harvest. We can see in Joshua chapter 3, verse 15. That's meaning it was overflowing its bank, a time when no human effort could make a crossing feasible. Yet God told the priests carrying the ark of the covenant to work directly into it. Then we can see the miracle. The miracle, the water stopping and piling up, did not happen in advance. It occurs as they obey, not before, after they obey. This detail highlights that faith often requires taking a risk based on God's promise, even when the outcome is unseen. Their faith was not just a belief in God's power, but an active trust shown by stepping into danger because he said to. It exemplifies a faith rooted in obedience that moves forward even when the way isn't visible. Remembering God's word, the memorial stone teach future generation about God's power and faithfulness. The selection of 12 men and gathering of stone, the memorial at Gilgal, and the importance of remembrance and teaching. Okay, let's move a bit about God's presence and power. The Ark's central role emphasized that it is God leading his people, not merely human leadership. The miracle at the Jordan affirmed God's power and faithfulness, paralleling the the earlier exalted from Egypt. Then we can see a bit I would like to talk about the leadership transition. God used this event to publicly establish Joshua as Moses' successor. Sorry. The people's willingness to follow Joshua and God's confirmation of his leadership and crucial for the conquest ahead. Okay, now we can see faith and obedience in leadership and community. God's presence as the source of victory, the continuity of God's promise from Moses to Joshua. And just now I already passed in slide number 5. There I have to talk about there also. The memorial stone. The memorial of 12 stone. Joshua set up the 12 stone that has been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. We can see in Joshua 4:9, historical and narrative context. This event occurs just after Israel's miraculous crossing of the Jordan River at God's command. At God's command, the priest carrying the Ark of the Covenant had stood in the middle of the riverbed while the entire nation crossed over on dry ground. Joshua chapter 3, verse 17. Once they had all passed, Joshua was instructed to set up a memorial of 12 stone taken from the very spot. The significance of 12 stone, tribal representation. The 12 stone represent the 12 tribes of Israel, reinforcing the idea that this event was a shared nation experience. Every tribe was part of the covenant, and every tribe witnessed God's faithfulness. A sacred location. The stones were taken from the exact location where the priest had stood with the ark of visible symbol of God's presence. That location was the center of the miracle. By placing the stone there, Joshua marked the meeting point between God's presence and human faith. The purpose of memorial, this stone will serve as a memorial, visible, tangible reminder of what God has done. According to Joshua chapter 4, verses 6 and 7, the stone would provoke future generation to ask, okay, what do this stone mean? This is testimony and spiritual information. Joshua, we can see how later on have to answer for that question. I would like to read. Sorry. Joshua chapter 4, verses 21 to 23. Okay. Let's read. Mm. He said to the Israelite, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do this stone means? Tell them, Israel crosses the Jordan on the dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crosses over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried up before us until we had crosses over. Later on, when their generation asked about what happened on what is that memorial stone, then God already let them know how to answer according this. Just now I read the verses, chapter 4, verses 21 to 23. Okay, now the question I want to take, are they and they are there on this day about the memorial stone. This statement mentioned few important things. At the time the book of Joshua was written, the stone still remained, serving as a long-standing witness to God's intervention. This act gracefully reinforced the historical credibility of the event. God's work was not momentary. It was remembered, celebrate, and meant to inspire faith in future generation. Okay, the importance of remembering. In times of hardship, God's people are often called to remember his past faithfulness. Memorial anchor the community in God's character and his promises. The stone weren't just for those who crossed the Jordan. They were primarily for those who didn't. This reflects the biblical emphasis on intergenerational faithfulness, telling the story so others will know, believe, and trust. Physical markers of spiritual experience, whether ancient stones or modern testimonies, can serve as powerful reminder of what God has done. They are not idle. They are invitation to remember and trust. And then I would like to go back chapter 4, verse 9. That remind us that God's work in history is not meant to be forgotten. The stone in the Jordan declare God make a way where there was no way. He was faithful then, and he will be faithful now also. I would like to go a bit application. What is your Jordan River? At this point, we must ask a personal question. What Jordan River are you facing? Okay. Almost 19 minutes already. Let me finish in a minute. Almost finished. Okay. Is there any area in life where God is asking for the waters to part first? It might be a different decision, a career change, sorry, a step into ministry or a relationship that needs healing. The lesson of Joshua 3 and 4 is that often your step of faith will be the trigger for God's intervention. Let's not miss this. God honors bold obedience. obedience. And why fear is natural, the core is to trust the one who goes before us. Okay, now almost one more. Okay, application. I already talk about application based on trusting God in new and uncertain circumstance. Number two, the importance of remembering and teaching God's word. Number three, leadership rooted in God's guidance. Last, remember and share God's faithfulness. I want to conclude for today's lecture. Joshua 3 and 4 depicts a foundation moment for Israel crossing the Jordan by God's miraculous power, affirming Joshua leadership and establishing a lasting memorial of God's faithfulness. Okay. God instruct to the priest at the Jordan River reveals a pattern of divine human interaction rooted in obedience faith. God often waits for us to trust him with action before he moves supernaturally. This book invites us to embrace faith that is not safe, but bold and expectant, trusting that God will do what only he can do after we do what he called us to. The book of Joshua reminds believers to trust, obey, and remember God's mighty acts as they journey into the promised land he has given. Thank you very much.